Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 98th edition of the Chronicles of Podcast. And these are the Chronicles of Landon Harvey. It is I, the bearded Brummy Jamie, and joining me, as always, is this handsome fella right here.
As always, indeed, it's the Scotsman Tom. And welcome to the Chronicles of Podcast. Hit it!
Hi there, you're about to enjoy the Chronicles of Tom and Jamie.
Hi everyone, I'm Kevin Mann.
Hi guys, my name's Annabelle Knight.
Hello, this is Becky Baldwin.
Hello, I'm Chesney.
Hey, what's up everyone? This is Braden from Say We Can Fly.
Hi, I'm Landon Harvey. I am a ventriloquist, and you're listening to the Chronicles of Podcast.
That'd be terrifying to some people, wouldn't it? Being in a room of a ventriloquist dummy. So that's like ultimate horror for some people.
Boys and girls, today we bring you the bad boy of ventriloquism as we bring you the Chronicles of Landon Harvey.
Depends on who it's for, right? Is it for a guy or a girl? You can never go wrong with an STD test, especially if it's negative.
Landon Harvey is joining us this week. He's a 22-year-old comedic ventriloquist who has amassed a following and over 1 million people on TikTok. He not only performs with puppets like Jackie the Jackalope, which you can see on this week's artwork, Bill the Zombie, Mervyn the Perverted Old Man, but he also makes puppets for other people as well. So he performs with them and he makes them. And even at such a young age, he's now opening a school to teach other people how to do ventriloquism with his Ventriloquist University.
That's absolutely amazing. Sadly, I was not available. I was not here for this interview, which I'm genuinely gutted about from the way you've just explained that. And I was like, oh, that would have been... But superhero, super special guest, Malli Malpass, special host, guest host, should I say, took my place for this one, as obviously, as you know, I was recovering from dental surgery. So yeah, I'm excited to hear this one because obviously I have no idea what happened. So Landon, thank you so much for joining us, my friend. It was an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. And I'm sure Malli filled if not exceeded, my spot.
It was great. And it was very weird interviewing with a different co-host, but I enjoyed it because, Malli, you are a wonderful human, and thank you so much for joining me. It meant the world.
Yeah, we do love you, Malli. No, there are no adjectives or no words that could truly explain just how much we do love you on this show, and we love you in person. So, also, Landon, again, thank you for joining us. It's great, and I'm really excited to hear this. Jamie!
Yes, sir.
Do you happen to have any final words at all?
Just a massive thank you to our wonderful guest this week. Landon, you're incredible. You're an inspiration. You've achieved a hell of a lot at only 22 years old, my friend. It is phenomenal to see. Everyone, you're going to enjoy this one.
Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, interviewing this week, it's Landon Harvey. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, today we bring you another wonderful guest. We've spoken to puppeteers on this show before, but today's guest is different to them all because he's also a ventriloquist. I can't do it. At only 22 years of age, today's guest has amassed over 1 million followers on TikTok alone, entertained countless numbers of people with his wonderful cast of characters, and is even helping future generations of performers. Boys and girls, today we bring you the bad boy of ventriloquism as we bring you the Chronicles of Landon Harvey.
Yeah, woo.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us, my friend. It means the absolute world.
For sure.
Before we deep dive into your life and your career, sir, let's hit the hard-hitting questions. I don't know if you noticed, but there's been a few things going on in the world the past couple of years. How was your pandemic season, as we're calling it?
It's been a weird thing to navigate. I started in the pandemic wanting to do comedy clubs, and then I realized that I couldn't stay out till 2 a.m. to go up and do, 3 minutes with a puppet for a bunch of wannabe comics. So I defaulted to TikTok and started doing all these live streams. And through that, I've cultivated an audience. I've tried out so many puppets and jokes and material, and I've realized that people wanted me to tour. So I've grown a lot. It's been something that has been odd because I tried to start my career in it, and I've kind of had to navigate around it. But looking back, it kind of primed me for what's next. So, yeah.
That's amazing. I love when we talk to people on this show and people are like, yeah, it sucked. The world was falling apart, but I turned that negative into a massive positive for myself and really like developed my skills and honed my craft on it. So it's amazing to hear you did that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's what happened.
It always feels weird asking this question, especially to someone who's like only 22 years old. But what did you originally aspire to be when you were growing up, before you discovered the world of puppets and whatnot? Has it always been entertainment for you, or was it like train driver? I don't know.
I was never subscribed to any type of friend group. It was very hard for me to be social. It was just something that I kind of built this cocoon with expectations and feeling like I couldn't relate to anyone my age. I still feel that a little bit. So it was always hard for me to make friends or for me to go into any of the other sports or anything like that. And so I always found comfort in ventriloquism ever since I was 6 years old, when a performer came and did ventriloquism at my school. So it's always been ventriloquism. And now it's more entertainment and getting into the whole touring and legal aspect of it, and the whole business side from default, having to, and the whole social media aspect and having to market and build your online presence and all that junk. But it's always been puppeteering. It's always been ventriloquism. And now it's more of an emphasis on how many jokes can I write? How funny can the show be? And how well can my characters and what I'm doing with them relate to my audience?
That's amazing. To do the work you do, though, you're saying then you didn't have a lot of friends growing up, but you must have like a bit of an outgoing personality and whatnot. Have you always been that way, or is it something you sort of had to train yourself to do this work?
Yeah, I would have to say throughout the many shows and streams that I've done, I've been able to break out of my cocoon. It was this very bizarre thing that I crafted as a child for my own comfort, and now I realize that I don't really need it. Through comedy has allowed me to realize how we're all just humans on Earth, and we're all going through very similar situations, and I don't need to be quite as guarded or worried about what other people think of me, because regardless, what are they going to do? Laugh at me? I'm a comedian. That's what I want. So I'm not too worried about it. And now I make friends through the live streams and through the shows that I do, and I've got other entertainer friends that see my stuff and talk shop with. So it's a neat thing. I still don't have many friends my age. I'm friends with older performers because I want to suck the knowledge that they have and just learn from them, kind of like a Merlin's Apprentice kind of thing. But I still try to throw in the occasional 22-year-old relatable joke or whatever to show that, look, I'm an old soul, but also I'm one of you. So
I was just saying to Jamie before we came on that obviously if you're in the ventriloquism game and you're in the comedy game, you're going to see other people doing that. But to people like Jamie and I on the outside of that, we only ever see like a ventriloquist raised to prominence about once a decade. Right. And it's like what was the name of the guy, Jamie, we were talking about earlier?
Jeff Dunham.
Jeff Dunham, about 10 years ago, he was everywhere. He was as viral as you could be at the time. But then it seems like you're like the next generation of that. You're probably the first to successfully utilize social media in doing that. And basically, you were saying about how busy social media is for you and having to do all the promotion stuff as well. But I've been thinking about ventriloquism as like sort of an art form today and how multifaceted it is. So it's not just puppeteering, it's not just the voices, it's character development. And I was thinking quite weirdly about it, because you have to sort of disassociate your own arm, but also be in full control of it to be a puppeteer.
Right.
Is there anything that was particularly challenging along the way that you struggled more with? What came easier to you? Was it the voicing or was it the puppeteering?
It's interesting. I think the biggest problem people have when they're learning ventriloquism is they try to do everything up front at once. Um, I'm creating something called Ventriloquist University, which is ultimately my master class, my university into the art form. And that'll be out in a month. But and in instructing this, I've realized like I have to teach how I've learned, and I've learned in stages. I've learned in stages and on stages, but I began learning the letters of ventriloquism. Not moving your lips is like the most basic entry to the art. And then from there, you have to make sure the puppet is different from you, and there's a conflict because that's what creates comedy. And then you have to make sure that the voice is different than what people are expecting or than what the puppet looks at. So there's really a rush of a variety of things that you have to be aware of. But I think once you get to the point where, like, I've done over like 400 of these streams and a bunch of shows before that. And so now I'm kind of to the point where it's kind of second nature for me. And what I have to worry about is if I'm introducing a new character, making sure that it's a different voice or that the material that I'm doing is relatable. I think the hardest thing for me now is figuring out what the next character is going to be. And also making sure that the characters I'm using are still relatable and people still like them, and what makes them likable aside from the reason why I like to perform with them. So
yeah, cool. So how many dead characters have you got? Like they haven't gone the whole way, that haven't quite made the cut, where you're thinking, oh, I'm onto something here, and then all of a sudden you're like, no, this isn't floating. This is.
Well, for a minute, I thought you were talking about Bill the Zombie because he's dead.
Of course, yeah.
I got him, but he's half dead because he's living dead. So, But how many dead characters do? That's a great question. I have, as a ventriloquist, you start with the basic little toy dummy, and then you want to get something that's more of a professional figure. And for me, that was my character called Scooter, and I used him for a while, and then I realized he was kind of one-dimensional, and so I kind of boxed him, and he's in the back of a closet somewhere. So I've him, and then I've got the occasional puppet that I will build that I have fun with, but I don't. There's an essence that I have to have with a character for me to want to continue using it. And I've done, like, I had this cat puppet that I recently used in a couple of videos, and it was fun, but I don't see that as a long-term character. So like I ended up selling that because I also build puppets and sell them. So I probably have around 5 or 6 puppets just in my attic or basement or whatever you want to call it that are never going to see the light of day, just because they were puppets that I needed along the road of my journey to get to the jackalope and the zombie and the pervy old man. So
it's amazing. We've spoke to like a fair few like puppeteers on this show: Noel McNeil, Paul Rugg, Tim Rose, people like that. Like, and they've told such amazing inspirational stories. But who inspired you to actually want to do this work?
Initially, it was a ventriloquist that's local to Dallas, where I currently live. His name is Dennis Lee, and he would tour these school shows as Dennis Lee and the Funky Monkey Bunch. And he was a ventriloquist with all these different monkey puppets. He had probably about 3 to 4, and they were all different ages and relatabilities. And I was very quiet as a kid, very kept to myself. And I remember the magic of seeing him perform live at my school. He had these crazy, whimsical, and colorful set designs. He had the message mixed with the entertainment and the comedy value of it. And then it was also just the magic of him being a believable ventriloquist that really kind of sparked it for me. I said, I wonder if I could do that. And it wasn't until later that I realized that I could. And then I realized there was something within me that wanted to pursue this and increase dramatically. And so that's when I pursued it. I would start bringing my puppets to show and tell in class. And then I got into Boy Scouts, and I would do little shows for my comrades and Boy Scouts. And just then that turned into retirement community walk around things, which then turned into corporate gigs in Dallas and just kind of everywhere. And then along the way, from being inspired by Dennis, I've seen, Dunham and Fader on TV, and David Strassman, who's big in Australia, and Nina Conti, and all these fantastic ventriloquists that have now, in one way or another, become my friends. So it's been kind of a wild experience.
But you were saying you like learned how to do this. Did you say you were 6 years old and you started learning how to do this?
I was, yes.
How does a 6-year-old start to learn ventriloquism? How does that even happen? Like,
Well, for starters, he has to have nothing else going on. And for me, that was it. And I had nothing else going on. I had a sock and a mirror, which is, the three things if you're going to start ventriloquism you need. So I just practiced in front of my mirror for hours, and I would get home from school and I'll do my homework later. And I get in front of the mirror. I'm like, how believable is this yet? And how good is my technique? And eventually, what I didn't realize is that would turn into a TikTok live stream and me going back and examining, go, is that's believable, or that's not good, or my friend would message me and go, dude, your lip technique is slacking, you gotta like tighten it up. And I'm like, oh god, well, I'm on social media now, I have to be aware of that if my ventriloquist friend is calling me out. So it kind of started with that and then spiraled.
I was watching some of your TikToks and more viral stuff earlier, and talking about the age that you started. I noticed some drawings in the background. And I thought maybe were they like character design, or was that just something that was in the room you were in?
Well, I've got some fan art over here on this door that I put up. So there's that, and then I also have character designs and drawings and stuff in my my puppet workshop, which is my garage. So it's a bit of both.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I just love the idea. Like, this might be the British in me, but the idea of like a kid in school knowing ventriloquism just sounds so dangerous in a British school. Like, it's like, fuck off, miss. Who said that? No one. I have no idea. It wasn't me.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you ever use that when you were younger to be a bit of a...
Not that I will admit.
This has been recorded. Good point.
Yeah.
You mentioned there as well, like you're in your garage building puppets. Where did you learn to build puppets?
Eventually, I kept wanting to buy puppets, and my parents told me, you need to do something with the ones you have. And I started, creating little bits, and I would perform them, but it wasn't enough, and I didn't like the puppets enough. And I remember my friend on Facebook had posted that he had built these puppets, and I thought, that's amazing. How do you? So I kept bugging him about it. And I said, how do you build it? Well, what is it you're doing that's different? And he said, eventually he's like, listen, Landon, I'm just going to send you some patterns, and this is what you do with these patterns to create a puppet. Have fun. And I got him in the mail a week later, and it's been a crazy experience ever since, because I've taken those patterns and I've built puppets of my own. And then from learning how to deal with those patterns, I've created patterns of my own. And that's why all my puppets are different sizes and shapes and one-offs and whimsical. And now I just, I do occasional puppet builds every now and then, whether it's for myself or for someone else. And I love the challenge and the whimsy that I'm able to bring to foam and fabric and fleece.
What inspired the jackalope? Because it's quite a niche mythical animal, isn't it? Really? I think it's like Eastern European or something. It's the jackalope, isn't it? Or is it Canadian? I don't know. I think it's something I've heard.
Originally from Wyoming.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But the jackalope, I found this voice that I could do that was kind of a Midwestern voice, kind of a funny and bizarre voice. And I was talking with my friend who is, just weathered by years of comedy clubs and experience. And he's got this artistic eye that just resides in a cartoony nature. And his name is Bob Rumba. And I was talking with him one day and I said, I can do this voice. And Bob always helps me with my voices and solidifying them, because he does all these voiceover work. And he's very familiar with that whole tribe of voices. I said, I can do this voice and I need a puppet for it. I need something different that hasn't been done. And I think it'll end up being my main character, my Peanut, my Bugs Bunny, my whatever. And so we went through about 15 ideas that night, and we stayed up till 4 a.m. going through all these ideas. And I go, that's not right. Initially, it was going to be a fat guy in a duck suit, which was one of the ideas that we had. Like, that's really funny, but that's like almost too out there. I know, a bunny with horns. Let's do that. He said, I'd never seen anyone with a jackalope before. And for me, how relatable is a jackalope? Well, Darcy had her rabbit. And so if I had a rabbit with antlers, that's kind of bad boy. And I think I can make that relatable. And if it doesn't work, I'll build the puppet. If it doesn't work, I'll sell it. And so I never kept the patterns for Jackie. Jackie was a one-off build. I just whipped him up in a week, started doing TikToks with him, and people really liked him. And then over time, performing on TikTok, this was back when TikTok you could only do like maybe 30 seconds to a minute. Now you can do a lot longer. I had to speed up the voice. So over time, the character changed because the voice had to be quicker. And now he is this ADHD kind of sticky iPad kid all rolled up. So I've made him relatable to a degree. And it's been fun. Now people request him on my show and on my streams. So it's funny how something can start with nothing and a little spark. And
yeah, he's a really standout character, isn't he? Like he like pops on the screen. I was watching earlier, and I started with the Mr. Whiskers. Is that the puppet that you sold, the Mr. Whiskers?
Yes.
Yeah. I thought I'm a cat guy, so I thought that was incredible. Like straight away. But then getting to the Jackie videos, that's the one that absolutely pops. That's that it seemed like a signature character. In the UK, a very, very long time ago, when you're of a certain age, like I am, we had puppeteers in ventriloquists that were really big on light entertainment. We had this guy that had a bear called Nookie Bear, and in the UK, Nookie is another word for sex. And it was all very, very tongue in cheek. Have you looked back at any of those sort of ventriloquists from the past or puppeteers in the UK? Are you familiar with any of we had Spit the dog. It wasn't really ventriloquism. All he did was spit. He just go, that's all he did. And we had like Nookie Bear, and Orville was a massive one. If you haven't seen these.
I know Orville. I know of Orville.
Yeah. Orville and Chuckles the monkey. They were like a social phenomenon.
Yeah.
Back in the day, like because we only had 3 TV channels, everybody knew them. Yeah. Those were the days. I'm older than I look, believe me. Yeah, so I mean, obviously you've got the ventriloquist in the States there that you're really familiar with. But is there anyone other than Orville you're familiar with from the UK, or is it just that one?
Current ventriloquists more in the UK, Anita Conti, I mentioned earlier, Max Fulham, who's a friend of mine that's rising ventriloquist in the UK, fantastic. Let's see, who else? Steve Hewlett. He was on Britain's Got Talent years ago. Fantastic act. So more of the contemporaries in terms of UK events. But we have a ventriloquist convention we attend every year, and we have a museum, and that museum is housed to hundreds of dummies with just wild histories. And it's always fun to walk around and see, oh, look at that. And they're, these warped, weathered little dummies sitting there with a history behind them, and it's fascinating to read their little placard and to imagine that the life that puppet is lived. So yeah, that'd
be terrifying to some people, wouldn't it? Being in a room of a ventriloquist dummy. So that's like ultimate horror for some people.
Absolutely. And I get that question a ton, like, are you able to sleep in the same room as them? And I'm like, well, yeah, I built them. I know that they're not real. And I put them in locked cases, so I cover my own.
I was about to say, the idea of that museum terrifies me simply because that old original ventriloquist dummy, the stereotypical one from like early, like the black hair, and scares the living hell out of me. That is a creepy looking puppet.
Oh, Slappy.
That's it.
Yeah.
Oh, just thinking about it gives me the willies.
Yeah, I love it. And what's weird is they should have a section of that museum that is dedicated to the creepy lore of ventriloquism. And they don't. It ends up being the entire museum by default. So it's pretty wild. But yeah, it's
very... Look, we were talking then just about Jack, but could you give us just brief, people who aren't aware, just a rundown of like your main characters? You got Jack, Bill, you mentioned earlier, Mervyn and Biscuit. Like, who are these characters, and tell us a bit more about them.
Okay, so the oldest one that I've been using is Mervyn, and he is an old retiree that hangs around this sketchy retirement home called Shady Folks, and he's kind of a ladies' man. And he always flirts with someone in the audience. We do a bit on that. So there's Mervyn Young, that's him, old man in his late 70s. There's Jackie the Jackalope. There is his imaginary friend Kip, which we never see, but is alluded to. There's Bill the zombie, who is this just mopey divorcee that happens to be a zombie, which I thought was just so funny. And so I'm having a lot of fun with him. And then there's his maggot that emerges from his head, Maggie Maggot. There's Biscuit the dog, who's just this little Midwestern pup. And there's, a bunch of others that just make their way into the streams or the different things that I do that become background characters. I had a joke that Mervyn would talk about with this character at the retirement home called Pirate Patty, and I eventually created a puppet of her to show her in the act. So she comes out at the very end of the show, and it's a riot. So there's her, and then I've got some other characters that are in development that are a lot of fun, and I'm really going for whimsy and wacky and whimsical and kind of some ventriloquism with an edge is kind of what I'm pushing for right now. So my next stuff is going to be even weirder, but still relatable. So it'll still have some changeability to it.
Where'd you get the inspiration?
Sorry, Jamie, go on.
I was going to say,
sorry, buddy, go on.
I was going to say, where'd you get the inspiration for these characters from?
It just varies. Sometimes I see people out and about. Something, the current character that I'm building right now, I've had as an idea for a while, but I wasn't quite pinned on what he should look like. And then we went to our ventriloquist convention, and I saw some of the people there, and I go, "That's him. That's him right there." So it's amazing where you can draw inspiration from. Like I said, this crazy mad scientist of characters, Bob Rumba, that I talked to. We come up with so many ideas just laughing our heads off. And so whether it's people I see at the airport or people on TV or voices in cartoons, I try to jot it down and kind of keep a working folder of it. Because sometimes you have the character idea and then you have the voice, and you don't realize they go together until you're like, you've got everything in front of you and you go, well, maybe this would go with this, or maybe it wouldn't. And that's why it's funny. So I recently realized a voice that I had that I'm able to do was funny for a new character that I'm working on, because it kind of takes the edge off of the character. And when I reveal the character, you'll know what that is. So it's a fun process.
So I saw a short clip where you were at the dentist, and you did a voice for the sucky machine because his life literally sucks.
Yeah.
Do you do that quite regularly? Do you assign voices and characters to random stuff? That if you go and get a coffee or something, you're looking at the coffee machine thinking, how would that sound? How would it present itself to the world?
I think if they made me wait an hour and a half on a coffee, I probably would. Like how they did at the dentist. I kind of started looking around. I'm like, how many TikToks can I film in this time? And then that became a challenge. So I think I filmed like 5. But sometimes you can draw inspiration from inanimate objects, which is always fun. And I got in a comment saying you should do that at the dentist. And I thought, yeah, I should. So why not?
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's good comedy. Yeah.
I did want to talk a bit more about the art itself of ventriloquism, like without giving it away or teaching us how. But how exactly do you do it? Is it all, because obviously you can't move your mouth? Is it all like throat action? That doesn't sound right. But it's more than just not moving your mouth, really, isn't it? What actually is it? I don't know how I'm trying to word this.
Ventriloquism is all tongue placement, which also sounds dirty, but it's true. And that's what it is. You can't move your lips, but if your jaw is wired shut, you can realize that it's not that hard to learn ventriloquism. It's mostly me bouncing the tip of my tongue off of the back of my 2 front teeth. For all the hard letters, P, M, V, that's just years of practicing in front of a mirror going, how does everyone's mouth is formed differently, but how does this work for me? There's been a lot of letter substitutions and that kind of thing, but that never sounded convincing. So it's really just practice, and me kind of situating my tongue to where, half of the time people will look at the puppet, but when they do catch you doing ventriloquism, you don't want to be, waving your lips. So it's just a lot of that.
It absolutely.
It's like reframing, isn't it? It's like reframing sounds and finding a different way to present them. Like the classic that everyone always says is bottle of beer, isn't it?
Right.
Bottle of gear. That's the first step in ventriloquism is trying to make that B sound in a different way and then presenting it that way. Is that something that you've come across? Are you familiar with the bottle of beer thing?
I am. Yeah, that's how all these instructional books teach you. They're like, okay, substitute B for G. So you'll say bottle of gear, but you'll think bottle of beer. And that never, and the problem is these, the reason why our art has a bad rap is because people have been doing this for years and they haven't gotten past bottle of gear. So they still sound like that. And then everything else just falls to the wayside. So there's a small percentage of ventriloquists that are really worth their weight, but then you have your hobbyists and everyone else. But that was never quite convincing for me. So I thought, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to figure out how to say it. And what it is really now is just me. If I said bottle of beer, whatever, I'm just situating my tongue so that it hits and over pronunciates the B's or the P's or the M's on the back of my front teeth, two top teeth, and my palate, versus having to use my lips. So you're really kind of substituting the lips for the palate. There's just a lot of that rehearsal. And also, if you don't want to do that, finding words within your dialogue that you perform. If you don't want to say there's a problem, you say, what's the issue? There's other ways around it that most people won't pick up on, but if you're a trained ventriloquist, you'll go, oh, they're trying to sneak around that. So, and that's fun to catch too, because I'm obsessive over that. But when you want to get to the point where you don't have to curve your dialogue or worry about what you're going to say or can't say or whatever, just in technique, let alone what technique ban you for. So
yeah, of course. Is there anything that you see in other ventriloquists, or any particular discipline in it that you would like to aspire to be able to do? Like, can you throw your voice, or can you there's a comedian in the UK called Rob Brydon. And he does this incredible little man in a box voice where he somehow makes it sound like there's this little guy trapped in his voice box, and it's incredible. And is there any element of it that you haven't quite got yet that you would like to aspire to do, or is there anything that any other ventriloquist has done that you think, I wish I would have done that, or I'm going to aspire to that?
Yeah, in terms of the art, the basic art of ventriloquism, it's ventriloquism, and then it's throwing your voice, and that's tightening your vocal cords and making your voice sound like it's further away than it really is. So I can do that. I'm not the best at it. I'd like to probably get better. Terry Fader is really good at it, and we're actually going to film something with him for Ventriloquist University where he kind of teaches and walks you through how to do that. But probably that in terms of classical technique, and in terms of stuff other ventriloquists have done, really the persistence and the just pounding of the pavement until you get to a point where you're happy with. Dunham's done that, Nina Conti, Strassman, all these great known ventriloquists that are just killers in the art have really inspired me to keep going.
It's amazing. And like we're talking here, like being able to actually just do ventriloquism in general, like talk about moving your mouth on it, but you've also got to do different voices, like change the way your voice sounds on it. Like that blows my mind also. But is there a limit to what you can do with your voice in ventriloquism, or is it literally just practice and you can do anything if you really put your mind to it?
I think it's self-awareness. I think some people want to get better and want to be able to have more distinct voices. I think some ventriloquists only have one or two, or maybe one and a half. So I think it varies per person. You can go watch some of the biggest ventriloquists, and some of them have a lot of voices and some of them don't. Some of the voices sound like other characters because they need to work on it more, and it's just how much time are you going to allow yourself to develop that voice or that character. And I thought I had a certain number of voices, and then through talking with Bob, I realized that okay, you can take one voice and you can slightly alter it and then work on that, harness it, and that's a completely different voice. And also not putting similar characters on the same lineup. So if I have my character Mervyn, who is kind of a Midwest voice, and Biscuit, I'm not going to put them side by side. I would have Mervyn, and then I do Bill, and then I do Biscuit. So you kind of break it up. So even to the audience, there's no, oh, well, that kind of sounded like that, because nothing that possibly breaks the illusion. Even though at the end of the day, they know that they're going to see a puppet show, you still want to keep it alive. So the
mental capacity as well, like blows my mind, because I know me, I'm an idiot. I'd get completely mixed up. I'd start like talking normal for the puppet and doing ventriloquism when I'm supposed to be talking as myself. Like, so that there's that side of it as well. Do you ever like find yourself just like tripping wires in your head, like getting things mixed up, or have you like you're on?
I'm definitely mental about it. I don't think I've ever mixed them up a lot. Sometimes I'll have two characters on both hands, and I usually become silent because I'm having to create the chaos for those two. And sometimes it slips where the voices swap or whatever, because you forget, because if you're going so fast with the insults or the back and forth, you kind of forget who's who. And so that can happen. But for the most part, it's pretty I keep it on lock. Yeah.
But you've achieved some really awesome things like in your short career so far. And one thing that really stood out to me is you opened a Halloween party for Dick Van Dyke. How did that happen?
Through chance and opportunity. And I have a lot of friends in entertainment, and one thing kind of led to another. And Dick's wife had seen me on TikTok. She actually had followed me. And when these friends posted that I was working with them, she reached out to them and said, "Hey, do you think he would come to Halloween?" And that was back in a couple of years ago. And they said, absolutely. And so I got to do that. And now I'm a part of that every year. And it's always a blast. And very fortunate to be a part of that.
That's amazing. Have you got to meet Dick? What's he like? He's a very polarizing character from what you hear.
Dick is exactly what you would think he is. He is charming. He's with it 100%, even at 97. He's witty. He's recollective on his past career and people that he's talked to, and he's always in the moment, and he's just overall charming. It was very, very magical getting to meet him, and to continuously meet him over the years is always fun.
That's so awesome. And another amazing thing that you've done is, like, we spoke about it, touched on it earlier as well, is your social media, because social media is currency in this day and age. Let's be honest with you. 1.2 million followers on TikTok alone. How did you get such a following? Is it a slow progression over time, or did like a video blow up that got people's attention? What was it?
I think it's a mix of things. I started TikTok in 2019. There were a lot less people on it then. So when I started posting my videos, everything hit 10,000 views in 10 minutes. I mean, it was insane. I was skipping class to go to the bathroom to check my notification and go, oh my, this is crazy. I need to double down on this. It was that wild. So there was that. There was the persistence of it. I didn't have a lot of competition. There were a lot less ventriloquists on it during that time, 2019. And I realized that I need to start using my own hashtags and making it where people can find me and find ways where I can reach a larger audience. So after the influx of people join TikTok and it's kind of, getting oversaturated, I started doing more live stream stuff, and that's how more people find me now than my videos popping up. But every once in a while, I'll have something hit. I did a video recently with an alligator puppet that is going to hit 6.4 million. And so you never expect certain videos to really do well, but then they do. And, it's just gravy on the whole presence. So...
That must drive you slightly mad as a social media creator, especially you put all this effort into a video, like, this is going to be the one, and then it's like, oh, well, it didn't go very far, did it? Damn it.
Yeah, and that happens time after time. And it's funny because I do certain videos for myself or for the art, and I'm really happy with the way that they look, and they're aesthetically pleasing, and I like the edit. And they'll do okay. And then I'll do something, that takes less than 5 minutes, and that will just skyrocket, and I'll get people that recognize me for it. And so, it is what it is. It's part of the beast. And, it's really just how many videos can I crank out? And then, of every, 100 videos, maybe 2 of them pop off. And that's what happens. So
I can imagine someone stopping the streets like, oh, you did that video? You're like, yeah, I did that one. But did you see this one? Did you see this one? This is the one I'm really proud of. Watch this one.
Look at all the others that I've done, like anything else. Yeah. It's funny. And now we do the live stream improvisations, and I have fans and people that chop them up for me, and we kind of post the highlights from that to promote that. So eventually, once I get started on my tour, we will take tour clips and live stuff from the show and post that too. So it'll become a amalgamation of everything online and out and about that I've been doing. Yeah.
Have you
Do you
done
have any? Oh, mate.
No.
Well, I was going to say, have you got any plans to sort of immortalize any of your puppets as like plushies and sell them? I mean, I'd really like a Jackie plush. To be honest, I think it'd be an amazing thing. Are you going to go down that route at all in terms of merchandising, or to just keep it to the university and the puppetry thing?
Yeah, I'd love to create my characters as plush, stuffies and even little hand puppets, but I'm not quite at the level where I can do that yet. I've looked into some alternatives and they're not quite convincing enough for me to go down that rabbit hole, jackalope hole. I have wanted to, most of these people you have to, go to someone in Indonesia or one of these places and get like 10,000 of them done. And, I don't quite have the numbers to sell that many or to even, have my own warehouse, but that's on the books. And eventually I'll have something called Build a Bill, where it's Bill and my zombie in various parts, and you buy a piece of merch and you get his leg or whatever. And then eventually you get it, you can, have the whole little doll. So I've got fun ideas like that will eventually get to down the line that right now are stored.
That is such a good idea. That is amazing. It really piqued me up. And I was like, oh my God, that's great.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah,
You're saying like you're prepping for a tour and whatnot now. Have you done many in-person shows?
I have, yeah. Way before TikTok. And then I started doing TikTok. And the interesting thing in my career is that I've been catering my act to the people I perform for. And so I would do a Cub Scout show and it would have to be themed kind of toward that, family friendly kind of Cub Scout. I would do a corporate event and it was really like, what did they want me to cover and what was the message there and how did it incorporate into their speech? And so now it's, what am I presenting? What am I known for? What are the characters I want within the hour and a half show? And how can I get people to come and see it? So now I'm able to kind of do my own thing, which is really empowering and exciting because I realize that these characters that work online will also work on stage. And so now it's just really tailoring my show to be something that's enjoyable and different and a unique experience for my audience.
Can you remember the first show you did?
I can. I had done smaller shows for family and friends, but the first one that really sparked the desire to perform, I was a choir boy in, I believe, my junior year of high school, junior or maybe sophomore year of high school. And my choir teacher, who knew I was a ventriloquist, came over to me one day in class and he said, we have about a 10-minute slot in our next choir recital. Would you like to do a little show with your puppets? Well, we have people that are changing into costume and all this. I said, yeah, that'd be great. And so I ran home that day and I told my dad about it. And he's like, well, you need 10 minutes of material. So at the time I would work with my dad and we created this great little routine with Scooter and then this other turtle puppet that I had. And I ended up performing, and that was for an October show. And I remember it was just like nothing I had ever experienced. It was probably an audience of 200. And I went on right after music. So people were like ready to laugh. They were ready for something different, where they didn't just have to sit there and, slowly glaze over to another old song or something that was rebooted by the choir director. And it was magical. It was exciting. Everything landed. And I remember afterwards, I said, I got to do that again immediately because it was like a fix. I was addicted to it. And I thought I have to capitalize on that. That's an emotion that I really, I'm addicted to now. And I love performing, and I love the everything that builds up to it, the writing, the creation, the dialogue. And then, you go on stage and, it either kills or it doesn't, or it does okay. And it's always the unknown that's exciting about it.
That's amazing. First ever performance being in front of 200 people. Fair play. Because that sounds
Yeah,
terrifying.
yeah, it was it was people that didn't know me. So it was refreshing. It was like, okay, well, I don't have to worry about, doing a bit and then looking across at my grandma or whatever at, the family table. Like I would do these things for Thanksgiving or, in Cub Scout banquets or whatever, or even things for, Susan's 6th birthday party that's like 30 minutes away from where I live. And now those were okay. And I got paid for those, and it kept me from having a real job at the time. But doing something of that caliber where I was walking onto a stage with full lights and everything, and I'm looking into a dark, audience, it was just like I see that was gonna engulf me, or I would tame, is just a lot to take in. And so that was really exciting when I was able to realize that I could deal with it. And kind of a personal milestone for me in terms of what would be next.
That's amazing. Talking about your live shows as well and your performances, something I alluded to earlier and I meant to ask, what exactly makes you the bad boy of ventriloquism? So where did that name come from?
It's a very funny origin story. We have there's a couple of things, but we have a convention, a ventriloquist convention. And a couple of years ago, when I was really popping off on TikTok, I think I had 800,000. I had a puppet posse, a group of other ventriloquists, and we kind of walked around, and we kind of ruffled some feathers because we're the next generation. And so I was talking with this elder, and from our community, and he's like, I don't know, you just have this essence to you. Like, you walk around here like you're the bad boy of ventriloquism. And I looked around and I said, can I use that? Has that been taken yet? And I did. I used it. And now it's fitting because I've got this weird show with an edge, and I've got wacky puppets, an antler, a rabbit with antlers, and a dead guy with a maggot, and all the next stuff that I'm going to be introducing is kind of out there. And that kind of adds to my bad boy thing. Also, I don't really subscribe to the typical material my characters are charming, but they're just different. They're more in your face, and I think that goes into the name.
I love the way you're popping up the collar where you were saying it as well.
I gotta, and then there's the whole I gotta keep up appearances thing. So let me fix my collar, rustle up my hair to do all that.
Have you been approached because of your social media presence to do anything like America's Got Talent or Britain's Got Talent or anything like that? Or is that something you consider if it came along, or are you on a different path to that?
Yes. A little bit of everything. Every year they approach me because I get people that tag the AGT channels in my chat, my comments. And I used to audition for that show when I was a lot younger, and I'm glad I didn't make it on, because one year the first year I auditioned, I thought I was going to make it on, and I didn't. And I'm very fortunate enough for that, because I've really evolved from there. Eventually I will get on America's Got Talent and I'll do the show. But what I've realized is AGT is not the thing that will propel me to stardom. It's the thing that will help me with the next step in my career. So if I do the show, I want to make sure that I'm ready for it. And then also, if I get voted off or whatever happens, I've got something after that. And so in creating this tour, I want to be able to have a tour so that if I go on the show, I can promote that. And then after people see me, they go, well, we want to see you live now. Well, I'm going to be on tour. So that's kind of been my next step in creating that. Because I've seen a lot of acts, ventriloquist and otherwise, that go on the show, and maybe they're younger or whatever, and they do all right, and they get this following, and then they get off the show and they kind of go back to what they were doing before, or they don't have enough of an act to really sustain them to their next venture. So I've really made sure that, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to be strategic about it. And I think that's the biggest thing when a lot of these young ventriloquist kids learn ventriloquism. They think, I'm going to learn ventriloquism, then I'm going to audition for AGT, and I'm going to become the next Darcy Lynn or the next whomever. And it really doesn't work like that. I mean, it can, but that's kind of a scary way to go about it.
It's all eggs in one basket, sort of.
Yeah. And you don't quite know. It just seems like a quick way to burn out. I mean, Darcy's fantastic, but she's one in a million. With her singing voice and her skills and, everything that she had to offer. So I think if you're wanting to learn the art, you should learn it and start doing shows around town and just kind of that kind of thing, or online or whatever. And really come into your own and figure out who you are within the art form. I'm just now figuring that out. And it's been a journey of 16 years. So I'm not saying it has that long, but enough time for retrospection and all of that.
One thing I've noticed when talking to you, you've got a very smart business mind for this. Like, where you're going. Like, you may not know how you get in there yet, but you know what you're doing. You know what, like you're saying, I'll go on Americans Got Talent if I've got this lined up. Like, There's that
Right.
business mind in you. It's really coming across. Where does that come from?
I probably just a combination of things. My dad is very business savvy, so there's that. I've been told by multiple people, don't do something unless you're really ready for it, and so there's also been that. And I've gotten to know a lot of these entertainers in the business that are people that I've looked up to, or that I look up to for various reasons. Maybe I don't want to become that, or I don't want to go down that path that they did, but there's a lot to learn from what they did. And I've also naturally second guessed myself on everything. And so the business aspect of that, kind of ties into all that with like, what's the next move and what is the best thing for me to do at this point where I am. So, and I seek counsel with my higher ups and management and all that fun stuff that they say, well, you should do this, and then that will help you with this next thing. And so actually I do it. Yeah.
So the Council of Ventriloquist Elders.
Yeah. It's the Illuminati, but everyone's, in cloaks, and they're dummies in a cloak. And it's very weird because we do a chant and the puppets do a chant. It's a whole thing. Yeah.
What a fantastic image that is, that could be like a Netflix special, of a
yeah, that's actually great. I should reach out to Mike Myers on that. He would probably love that idea.
I did want to go back to something we were discussing earlier, and that was the puppet making. Obviously, you don't just build them for yourself, you also build them for other people, like I say in my intro, helping the next generation of puppets. What's the process for this? Like, how much detail and information do you need to get given to go into something like this?
I usually try to extract as much detail as I can from the client that's reaching out to me about a custom character. I like to know what the voice is going to be like, what the character is. I can build the puppet without that, but there's certain aspects to the design of the puppet that I can incorporate if I know the full realm of what this character is and why it exists and why it does what it does. And it's stuff I look for when I'm building my own puppets that allows me to connect more to the puppet. But I really kind of send them a questionnaire. I say, what's the character's name? Who are they? What is it going to be used for? Is it stage or television? What are you wanting to evoke when you bring out the puppet? Is it scary? Is it goofy looking? Is it funny? Like, my thing with my zombie was one of the biggest hurdles that I was trying to figure out is this zombie has to have like a Disney kind of quality to it. Like, it's got to be creepy looking, but also friendly, and it has to teeter on that line. So when I bring him out, he's got to be like creepy and goofy looking, so I can have him talking about, wanting to eat some lady's brains in the front row, but then he can also do it like a throwaway joke and be charming. And so that's kind of the line that I surf with that character. So if I'm going to do something like that, I'm not going to make it completely gross, because that just throws it out and that kind of ruins it. I want to kind of be on that edge where you don't know which way I'm going to go with it. And that's what I look for with my clients. Is the character cute? Is it goofy looking? Does it have a quirk that can be incorporated into like a mechanism, whether it's a blinking or like an ear popping up or something like that? I usually get on a call with them and we go through this list, and sometimes they don't quite know what they want, and I can kind of direct them on what I would do if I were to have the character. And sometimes that's helpful. And then sometimes, we draw inspiration from the sketches that I do and then the process of that. And I go, well, that's kind of like what I imagine it, but it needs to kind of change a little bit. And there's a real design process to that usually takes about a month before I even start building. Yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing. Like, it's weird from being on the outside. You don't realize just how much thought and behind the scenes goes into something as a puppet. It's
yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, for my stuff, I really want it to be iconic and memorable, and so I do obsess over it, and it's the one thing that I love. So if I'm gonna spend hours, in the shop revamping something, it's got to be worth it, and it's got to be able to connect. So it's very important.
You can really tell the attention to detail. I was watching. Sorry, I forgot the name of the zombie character already.
Bill. Yeah.
Bill. Yeah. And one thing I noticed about Bill and how animated the character is that there's two elements to it where you've got that bottom jaw that's really loose and flowing. It's not linear at all. So you've got a massive expression there, and then you've got the stick on the arm that you continually go back to animate that character when it's needed. So you can, you're Landon, and then all of a sudden you're in there, and Bill's animated again. And there's a wonderful sort of organic nature to it, which makes it, it makes it immediately iconic, and that's something that's obviously changed in ventriloquism, because it traditionally it was very stiff, wasn't it, with the mouth bit and stuff like that. And it's obviously the puppeteering thing. There's obviously sort of a lot of Henson inspiration going into it in the way that you puppet it. Is that something that you like aspire to be that sort of iconic? Have you seen the documentary with Elmo where the guy's just walking around? Yeah, and then you forget that the guy is underneath the puppet. He's that convincing. And he's quite a big dude. And you absolutely forget. He's like, hello, everybody, and he walks in, and you completely forget that he's there, and it's incredible, and it's sort of that immersion in the character. I don't know what my point was. I was getting really excited about Bill.
No, but you make a great point, because that is true. Traditionally, when you think ventriloquist, you think of the wooden dummy that sits on the table next to the performer, and that's great and all, but the reason why I do a lot of soft puppets is because they've got more of a range of motion. And when I'm performing on these big stages, I build them a bit bigger than the typical soft puppet, and I want them to be able to lean into the audience and to fly off my arm and to do all these crazy things that you couldn't do with a stiff puppet like that. So that's one of the reasons. And then I also think, like, well, what is this? Bill the Zombie has gone through probably 4 variations of the puppet, and the current one I'm using I'm very happy with, but it took a while to go, okay, well, his mouth needs to be able to be more malleable like that, because I want to have him bite me, or I want him to completely fall apart. And so it's certain little details like that people really take and appreciate in the videos, and then also in the performance aspect of it. And then with Jackie, his antlers, they were never, originally they looked like fungus. And so I got better at building antlers. I had to keep redoing those. And just even small elements like the muzzle, the original jackalope, it's the same puppet, but I tore off the muzzle and I redid it. I wasn't happy with it. And I think that essence of being critical of your work and going, well, what's going to bring me that much more satisfaction when I perform, but also what separates it from the other characters and what adds that magic element to it is kind of what keeps me going and what sets me apart from, your typical vent.
And it really does. It shines through, that professionalism, but that passion for the art as well. You haven't become jaded, but it's still very
well. I'm young. There's time.
Yeah. I try not to mention people's ages, because I feel like I'm being patronizing or condescending when I mention how old. When Jamie said earlier, oh my God, you're 22, and I was like, I've got tattoos older than you, and I try not to mention people's ages, because I don't want to be ageist in any way. But I mean, it's absolutely apparent that you love what you do, and it's fantastic. And I'm a new fan. I'm absolutely going to be following your exploits. I think what you do is incredible, and I'm a little bit jealous that I didn't get into ventriloquism when I was a kid.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it's neat to also, I put out this stuff to kind of build my presence and what I'm doing, and then as consequence, I inspire people along the way, and that's always fun. We just had our annual Vent Haven Ventriloquist Convention, and I got to meet some of my fans there, which was really, really neat, and kind of talk shop with them and introduce them into our community. So
that's all. When you were saying then as well about like helping the next generation, meeting the fans and stuff like that, you touched on it earlier, and I do want to mention it again. You started your own ventriloquist university, which is absolutely amazing that you want to pass that knowledge on to other people. Where did that idea come from to start this?
It's probably a combination of a couple factors. There was a ventriloquist course that was kind of being dissolved, and I had talked to the higher ups about wanting to revamp it. And they said, we could revamp it, but we really think that you should start your own thing. And this was during the whole bad boy of ventriloquism thing. And so I'm talking to them and I go, I'll do it. But if I start my own thing, it's going to be branded with my name and it's going to be kind of aggressively me. And I want to make sure that, if I do that, I have y'all support and that no one, it doesn't ruffle any feathers. Well, you're always going to ruffle feathers, but I try to, ask for forgiveness or permission or whatever the order is. So there was that. And then there was also, I gotten a lot of people on my live streams and in my videos wanting to learn ventriloquism. And I didn't have anything out there that was instructional or that I could push them to teach them. And in everything I do, I always go 110% into it. So I thought I could create a Patreon, but that's is what everyone does. And it's kind of seems hokey to me. What's the next step up from that? Oh, I know. I'll create a whole website and I'll get all my friends to be part of it. And I'll be the dean of this ventriloquist university. And that's what I did. And so I've created Ventriloquist University. It's a online course. You subscribe per year. And what it is you learn the beginnings of how to do ventriloquism and then everything beyond, learn into markets and everything I wanted to know and wanted to have access to when I was a beginner in this. And so through that, all these connections that I've made in my art, I've been able to interview them and have them be part of the university, featuring as guest lectures. So it's been a really neat thing. So not only do you learn ventriloquism when you join, but you also are introduced to this whole community. So which is important. I didn't have that when I was younger. Was a sense of
I just had a brain flash of another Netflix special there. If you, I don't know why I'm giving this away. But imagine, a series. There's a lady, she's really goth and she does like cooking things and she has puppets with her in the show, Christine something. I can't remember what it's called. But
the
I just had this
creations of Christine McConnell, I believe.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. I just had this vibe of Ventriloquist University where you're there and then you've got like kids and they have to make their own puppets and then do it, and it could be like the new Drag Race or Next Top Model, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of range to play with that idea for sure.
Yeah, credit me.
I will, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Malli gets a producer's role.
Yeah. Just give me that Stan Lee production credit that you never did anything.
Yeah, you'll get a cameo in it. It'll be great. Yeah.
Get one of the puppets to look like him. It'd be great. Before we start wrapping this up, Landon, I did want to mention you have your own podcast that you do. Landon Live. You've had some amazing guests on the show, including the gentleman we spoke to in Bill Kopp. Amazing man. You spoke to a lot of puppeteers and ventriloquists on the show. How much knowledge have you gained from them from talking to these guests?
Not a lot. No, I've gained tons from talking with them. I started the podcast because I wanted to be known by the elders of our art, and I wanted to pick their brain on different things that they've done in their career that they were proud of or that they maybe were not so fond of, to kind of learn what is this art that I'm getting into? What is the business side of this, and what is the pitfalls? And so I started the podcast, and I was just interviewing a bunch of ventriloquists. And then from there, I realized, well, people enjoy the podcast. I want to kind of vary it. Now it's just created people that I talk to and reach out from, and people that I befriend on TikTok, and it's just kind of evolved from that. But I've learned a lot from these ventriloquists, and it's been a neat ride to be able to chat with them.
Is there any particular moment you're like, hold on, I need to grab a pen and paper? Say that again.
Yeah, Nina Conti. I had a great interview with Nina, and it was a lot of fun. And most of her show is improvised, and I do an improvised live stream show, but I don't think I could ever confidently go out there and just improvise an hour to an hour and a half. And that's amazing that she does that, and she's so killer with it consistently. And so we talked on certain subjects in terms of improvisation and the believability of the character that I really resonated with. And so that was a good watch and something I look back on and listen to every once in a while.
Before we let you go, Landon, what's coming up for you? Is there anything you've got going on that you can talk about? Anything you're working on or anything like that?
Yeah, so in about a month, I'll be releasing Ventriloquist University. That's been a year in the making. So check out that, ventriloquistuniversity.com. And then I'm also putting a little tour together. So follow me on Instagram, mainly Instagram, but Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook threads, all that junk. Landon Venting, LandonVenting. We keep you guys updated there, and that's where we post most of our stuff.
I was going to ask if you had any plugs or social medias, but you beat me to it on that one.
I'm gonna go grab a sock and a mirror. I think right now. I'm gonna spend the rest of the evening trying to say bottle of beer into a mirror. That's gonna be.
You'll slowly go insane, and welcome to the club.
Malli, do you have any more questions for our wonderful guests?
No, I think we're good to let Landon go. It's been fantastic speaking to you. It really has. It's a little walk down a road that I never thought I'd be conversing about. So I think it's fantastic. I love what you're doing, and I wish you all the very best in the future. I'm sure you're going to be huge.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. This was fun, you guys.
And I just want to say as well, one thing I love when we talk to people who are so enthusiastic and passionate about what they do. Because I feel like there's a lot of people in this world, including myself, who really wanted to do something and never followed it because they taught themselves out of it for whatever reason. So to know that at 6 years old, you're like, you know what, I want to learn how to do it. And you've stuck to it to the point that you're now 22 years old. You've got a massive following on social media and whatnot. You're going to go on tour and all that. It is absolutely amazing. And it is really inspiring. And if I was wearing a hat, I would tip it to you, my friend, because it's honestly incredible.
Well, thank you. It's been a wonderful journey, and I've just gotten started. So
yes, indeed you have. Landon, thank you so much, my friend. Really appreciate taking time out.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. These were wonderful questions. I had a lot of fun.
Thank you.
All the best.
All the best, my friend.
Howdy. Take care.
What a phenomenal interview. This one was so much fun. Landon is a great, great guy. He's like I said in the interview, and I said beforehand, how much that man has achieved at 22 years old is phenomenal and inspiring. So people, please share this man. He deserves all the love you can give him.
Absolutely. Landon and Malli, thank you so much for being a part of the show. It means the absolute world to the both of us. Obviously, I, again, wasn't there, so I can't give any feedback. But I really hope that you all enjoyed listening to it as much as Jamie and Malli did recording it.